Security researchers have found a way to bypass the Windows Hello facial recognition that is used by hundreds of thousands of Windows 10 users to log in. The latest batch of Patch Tuesday security updates from Microsoft has landed with a hefty thump. With 116 vulnerabilities fixed, 12 of which were rated as critical and 2 already being exploited, the usual advice to install those updates as soon as possible applies. Not least is one of them fixes the print nightmare vulnerability in the Windows print spooler service that could lead to a remote takeover of your system. However, the vulnerability that really caught my attention is one with the potential to impact a massive 85% of all Windows 10 consumers, a way for an attacker to bypass the Windows Hello facial recognition login authentication system. Here's what we know and what you need to do next. Security researchers at CyberArk Labs have discovered a vulnerability within the Windows Hello facial authentication process, CVE 202.134.466, that could allow an attacker to gain access to a Windows 10 computer. Scary sounding stuff, but how worrying is this in a real-world setting for the average Windows 10 user? Let's start by looking at what the vulnerability is. The full technical explanation has been published on the CyberArk website, but here's the brief version. The Windows Hello facial recognition process requires a camera with 2 separate sensors, namely an infrared and RGB one. However, the researchers found that only the output from one of these, the infrared images, was processed during authentication. Indeed, they replaced the RGB user image with that of SpongeBob to prove the point. The vulnerability, then, being that an attacker would only need a single, valid, infrared frame to bypass the system. Well, sort of, and this is where the scariness starts to fade a little. The exploitation of the vulnerability is far from an easy process. For a start, the attacker needs that infrared image of the user. The researchers say that this can be achieved by walking past someone, placing a camera in an elevator, etc. So already, this is starting to sound like a somewhat unlikely risk to the average user. And it gets even more unlikely when you realize that even if the attacker got that infrared image of your face, they would still require physical access to your computer for Stage 2. Stage 2 is the insertion of a custom-built USB device that can then inject the spoofed image. In an email addressing the vulnerability status, a CyberArk Labs spokesperson wrote that the bypass would be of particular use to a criminal launching a targeted espionage attack, with targeted attacks having increased in popularity over the past 3 years as nation-states and organized groups realize their potential. This is true enough, but most Windows 10 users are not on the nation-state espionage radar.